You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
This is Chris Senko, the social media manager for Deaf Crocodile, and today I am very excited to be talking with Ben Modell from Undercrank Productions. Ben is the musical composer and performer for the upcoming Deaf Crocodile release of the Jan S. Kolar silent double feature, including Arrival from the Darkness and St. Wenceslas. Ben is performing the music, composing the music for St. Wenceslas, as well as some of the short films that are included on the release. And I wanted to hear a little bit about Ben's approach to working with composing for silent film, because that is one of the main things he does, especially with Undercrank Productions. So, Ben, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on. I'm really glad to have this opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So, Ben, I guess we have a local theater, the Music Box Theater, and we have an organist who plays, Yeah, Dennis Scott.
You're in. Yeah. Dennis, is it Dennis Scott?
Dennis Scott, yeah. Dennis Scott plays organ at our place, and so whenever I go see silent films, an awful lot of times Dennis is playing the organ. Although we have other, composers that come in and so forth.
Sure.
But I don't really know, other than really enjoying it. I don't really know what goes into something like that. So especially with this is a release. This isn't just like a live in the moment thing. So Ben, how do you approach creating music for a new silent film you're working on? Do you have like a certain process? Like when you got St. Wenceslas in from Dennis and Craig, like what's the sort of the first thing you do to sort of prepare yourself?
For a recording, because recording a score and playing a show are two completely different animals. So the process is similar in some ways and different in others. So for typically any film that I'm going to accompany, whether it's a home video release, like the Kolar films, or the things I have coming up for Undercrank Productions, the Marion Davies film, The Cardboard Lover, the Arbuckle set we're working on, or whatever it is, or if it's a show like the things I have coming up this summer or this fall, I will ideally watch the film once ahead of time so that I can make mental notes or written notes about anything that is sudden or a quick shift. And I don't mean like a surprise, like we say jump scares and that sort of thing, but sometimes the storytelling language of silent film will go from one scene to another without a tidy wrap up and a fade, and then a fade into the next thing, or a fade into an expository title that then introduces, and then we fade out and fade into the scene. Sometimes we'll just cut. And so if it's a huge shift in mood, I need to know it's coming. And so I will watch, okay, now we're back on the farm. Okay, so I will make a note of what are the 2 or 3 things that happen before the cut. And so while I'm playing, and sometimes this is happening with a recording, I'm watching, okay, he sits at the table and he looks at the newspaper and now we cut. So that way, the idea is to stay ahead of the film a little bit. I learned my craft when I was in college, which is when I started playing for films, from a man named Lee Irwin. And Lee had been a movie organist in the 1920s. And like most organists from the 1920s who played in cinemas himself, John Murray, Bob Vaughan, Gaylord Carter, Rosario, they eventually wound up working in radio. But Lee also went to France to study composition with Nadia Boulanger. And I think his approach to film accompaniment was a little bit more, I'd say, either contemporary or in line with what we expect today from a film score, rather than carry on the scoring traditions of the 1920s, which were a little bit different. So Lee often would tell me it was important to stay ahead of the film, just a hair, because if you're lining something right up, it's not only is it right on the nose, but the audience is aware you're doing it. And the idea is to disappear. So I'll make notes of sudden shifts, places where a character's theme or a love theme or a main theme for the film would apply. I'll come up with these themes ahead of time, or sometimes while I'm recording or while the show is happening. And then I bring them back as needed, but not too much. There's a tradition in silent film scoring originally that I think was born out of stage melodrama, and where anybody who shows up, you play their theme. It's like Peter and the Wolf, if you know what that is.
Of course, yeah.
And it kind of continues today. If we cut to a shot in outer space and we see a spaceship and we hear Darth Vader's theme, we know he's coming, and we're going inside his ship.
Yep.
And the Harry Potter films work the same way. So, but I like to do it sparingly, again, so you're not aware of it. So I'll watch the film, make notes, make some musical motif compositions. If there's a piece that is required, somebody sits down at the piano and plays something, and we cut to a shot of the sheet music. Even if it's obscure, by golly, there's going to be one person who knows it, and we'll ask, why didn't you play fill in the blank? So I will look that up, and sometimes it's easy to find. Sometimes I have to find a YouTube video of an old 78 and transcribe it. And sometimes it's just so obscure, I'll create a piece that sounds like it would be called blah, 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 blah. And hopefully that one person who actually knows what it is isn't going to have a hard time with it. So the idea is to prepare, but also to be in the moment when the lights go off in the theater or when I start recording. For home video recording, I've developed a practice that it's similar to a show, except because I know it's being recorded. And for some reason with home video, the soundtrack is a little bit larger than it is in a show. The screen is smaller, the sound is bigger. So it may not be that way for the viewer, but to me, it's more important and the pressure's on a lot more. So it's still what I consider, I think the term composition and performance fits, but I also consider it improvising until it's right. I don't think of the way I compose mostly is that rather than, well, I've found a way to eliminate the step of writing it down note by note.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, yeah.
I'm composing into the recording software. And then I can punch in wrong notes, or if there's a few bars I'm not happy with, I can fix them. But it's just easier. And because I've been accompanying silent films for so long, although I do some scoring for small orchestra, I have about 9 or 10 scores that are available for short comedies and animated cartoons, some of which have been reworked for concert band. The process of stopping and writing it down, and it's so laborious.
Yeah.
It's not as much fun as it might be for some other people. So previewing the film, preparation, making notes, and then seeing what happens.
Okay.
So when I talk about composition and performance during the recording session, I may have some preconceived ideas, but I also am open to anything that happens while I'm watching the film. And I have a background that includes improvisational comedy performance, and that's something I studied in the late 80s with a group called the First Amendment.
Okay.
They're not famous like Upright Citizens Brigade or Second City, but I think they were one of the best, and they were around. And then I studied with the East Coast version of the Groundlings, which is called Gotham City Improv.
Yeah.
And that
cool.
practice of making an assumption instantly and committing to it, but also being willing to change on a dime, really opened up my improvisational scoring techniques a lot. And so I'm aware that something can happen during a recording session or during a show that I was not planning that is way better than anything I had worked out ahead of time, which is, again, the hazard for me with composing, where it's written down and then trying to stick to it. I show Keaton's 1 week to students or school kids, and that's sort of my go-to short.
Right.
for people who have never seen a silent movie. And I have an orchestral score for the film that I composed, and I have set themes and set music for it. And one day I was playing for it at a school, and I don't know, it wasn't a choice, but the music I had composed for scene 3, I started playing at scene 2 and vice versa. And I was like, oh, this actually works better. And I got to go fix the orchestral score, which I haven't. But um, there's these two things going on at the same time. One other part of my process with home video scoring is I have a video projector set up.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
For many years I was doing my scoring with a TV set, and it was fine, but I always was aware of the disconnect between what it felt like to record a score for home video and what it was like to play a show. And I thought, what if I could replicate that scenario physically? And it turns out getting a video projector and projecting an 8-foot wide image on the wall of my living room was pretty darn close. Because silent film is purely visual, all the information is on the screen, and so watching it small, not only as a viewer later on, you may miss some things, but for the journey I have to go on as a film accompanist, I need to see the faces big. I need to see the reactions.
Yeah.
If there's wide shots like there are with some of the battles in St. Wenceslas or any of these films, the analogy I often use is that sometimes it's like driving somewhere you've never been without GPS at night. And so you're not just looking at the yellow line and oncoming headlights, you're looking all over the place for that gas station someone told you to look out for. There's a park over here, but there's a fork, but don't take the right on the fork, and then there's a roundabout. But which round, so you're not just going straight, you're looking. I'm watching all over the frame, even if I know the film, to anticipate so that I'm ready. So when somebody bursts through a door or pulls a knife out or throws something and hits them in the head, I'm already ready for it. So those are some of the mechanics of the process. So there are these, like I said, there's preparation, but there's also the willingness to go along and see what happens. And I had that happen on some of the short films that are extras on the set, where I thought one thing in previewing the film ahead of time, and then not really actually being sure what I was going to do to make it work. There's a film called, I can't remember the full title, but it's Polycarp something, 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 something.
Yes.
Now, for silent film fans and historians, you may know the name Polycarp because it was a character name of a comedian who made comedy shorts in France, along with Polydor, Zigoto, Onésime, Robinet, Little Christia, Sarah Duhamel, and there's so many of them who make these little 7-minute short comedies. Now, the Polycarp film that's here is nothing to do with that.
Okay.
So I thought, okay. And also the filmmaking of it is it resembles what we might think of as amateur cinema. So I'm watching the film, and it's got a very, very, very basic storyline. The storytelling visually is different. And I really wasn't sure that the film was going to really work. And I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to have to work extra to find a way to make it work. And strangely enough, I hit play, I hit record, and I put my hands on the keys and started playing. And something happened in the recording session almost immediately where I thought, oh, this film actually works. And it's working a lot better than I thought it was going to. I can't tell you what it was I did. Once I finish editing a track, I don't go back and listen to it. I don't watch it against picture. I'm like, great, on to the next thing. There's another one. There's a couple of other shorts that were like that. There's one where there's a couple of guys who fancy themselves as detectives. I think, is that the lady with the small foot or something like that? There's that one, and there's another one where I thought, oh, this is I'm not really sure what's going on here. The filmmaking, even though it's from the 1920s, looks a little bit earlier. And by that, I mean, there's less left to the imagination. There's less expression. There's less expressiveness. There's a much more proscenium-based cinematography, and sometimes with earlier film, there's more that has to be done musically to bring emotion and drama and tension to the storytelling. And again, with these couple of films, again, I had some ideas, but I also knew something might happen. And in both cases, I just started playing, and I thought, oh, I don't know whatever I'm doing is working. And not only patting myself on the back for the music, but I felt like the film is working. I consider myself in service of the film and the filmmakers and the people who made the film. So one of the things I'll try to do in some cases is to understand the mentality or viewpoint of the person directing or their style. Chaplin has a point of view. Eisenstein has a point of view. Fairbanks and whoever his directors are, there's a sense of fun and whimsy, even though there's drama and action. So I'm on their side. I'm working for them when the lights go out. I'm not familiar with Mr. Kolar, but I'm watching these films, and I don't. Sometimes people ask me, well, what do you do with a bad film or whatever? I don't make that call. I have to make whatever I'm playing for work for a contemporary audience, and not just play what was played in the 1920s, or just go, well, it's kind of weak. Well, you have to make it work. I'm here to get these films, or help get these films, or support someone who's getting these films back onto screens for people, so they'll enjoy them, and especially in a case like these, to discover them. So. That was the fun, actually, of some of these films, that I thought, oh, the film is this kind of a film. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And it turns out, oh, this actually works better. And something instinctively, I mean, I've been playing for films for over 40 years, and your instincts just kick in at some point. You can't even explain it. There's this flow that happens. The picture comes into my eyes, into my brain, out my hands. I hear the sound that I'm playing, and then it cycles through again and again, in an almost trance-like state. And you can't really explain. You talk to anybody who does improv comedy, they get off the stage, and what were you thinking? I don't know. Somebody said,
started happening.
We're in north, way at the North Pole, and this happened and that happened, and somebody walked in as Willy Loman. Well, you don't say there's no way this could be possible. You go for it and make it work.
Yep.
And you don't think about the process. So it's almost instinctive in a way. You're not just matching music to what you're looking at, or mirroring. The thing I like to say is that the music needs to sound like it's coming from inside the film, so you can forget about the composer and the accompanist and enjoy the film.
I pulled up the spreadsheet, and yes, you were right. The Lady with the Small Foot is the name of one of the shorts.
Yeah.
And Polycarp's Winter Adventure was the other one.
Yeah. And it's just, Polycarp is this guy who gets up the nerve to ask a girl out on a date, to go sledding or something, and another guy intervenes, and that's it. And that is enough plot for, a split reeler, as we call it, a half a reel that's 6-7 minutes long. It's a full 2 reels, and I really wasn't sure. Watching it in dead silence on a computer monitor, I thought, I don't know. And then when I was recording, it just sort of came to life, and I was able to find levels emotionally and psychologically to make it work.
No, I loved hearing that, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't presume, because I assumed that there was a large amount of improvisation involved, but I wanted to make sure that you weren't going to be like, well, excuse me, I actually compose every single second of it. And,
I still consider it composing. It's
me
a
too,
lot of times
completely.
people will say, oh, you're just winging it. you're playing whatever. And, you know, uh, it's like the way a jazz musician works. You're developing constantly a
I was going to say,
musical.
no one's calling Keith Jarrett
Right,
winging it.
right, exactly. You're not,
Yeah.
just seeing what happens. There's a
Yeah.
musical vocabulary that gets developed, not just of melody and melody composition, but of underscoring technique. Plus, you never really get to finish a melody. Sometimes you do, but it's sort of like,
Right.
this is an extreme example, but if you turn on Tom and Jerry and close your eyes, or Bugs Bunny with Carl Stalling and Scott Bradley at MGM, those things, you get through 7 beats and then we're on to something else, or something will happen and, you don't finish the piece. So being able to stay loose that way and stay open to impulse. So it's just not pre-composed. It's not pre-composed and written out with little black dots and little lines over everything. It can be done that way,
Right.
but Lee Irwin was an improviser. He studied with an organist named Andre Marchal, who's one of the great improvisational organists in France. And most of the people who were film organists were either improvising or using music that they themselves had come up with, or a mix of that. The ones that I knew of who worked into the 2000s. So it is a way films were accompanied. There were certainly ensembles and soloists who couldn't improvise, who worked with all the huge libraries of stock music that was published for film accompaniment in the 19 teens and 20s.
I know you do a lot of comedies and a lot of, obviously American stuff. Was there anything specific about the storytelling or the filmmaking style of Kolar, or, the sort of Czech filmmaking that presented any novel challenges with regards to it? Were there any, because like you said, with like Eisenstein, I'm sure you have to really be thinking in a different compositional framework than with Chaplin and so forth. Was there anything like that from a Czech point of view, or just a Kolar point of view?
With the exception, really, of the St. Wenceslas feature, a lot of the shorts that I scored had this look as like they had been made much earlier, a much simpler understanding of the visual storytelling abilities. The book I wrote, and which was published last year, called The Silent Film Universe, focuses on what I believe is the core appeal and core element of silent film as it worked and was 100 years ago and is today, which is that there are things that are left out and that we, without being aware it happens, are filling in constantly. And it's a trusting of the filmmakers to not show you everything and to suggest things. Cut to a close-up of something, cut to a close-up of something else, and then we as viewers put these things together to either infer some information or an emotional state or something that someone is thinking without having a title card saying, so-and-so remembers the time they went and visited the doctor. So there's a lot more where the information is coming to us from the screen in a lot of the short films. But there's a maturity in the storytelling that kicks in, especially with the St. Wenceslas. And maybe it's just by virtue of the fact that it is a late silent. And by that point, between his Kolar's experience making so many films and the fact that the film industry had, really just sort of solidified itself as an entertainment medium. And you can see, as the expression goes, you can see the money is up on the screen. The production values, the costuming, the sets, the sheer number of people who are in the film. There's a shift in that film. So there wasn't necessarily a directorial style that I picked up on. So for the shorter films, I was mainly working out, finding ways to make the films land the best way possible for an audience of today to honor the work that Kolar put into making these films. Kolar and the entire behind the scenes staff and the performers as well. And didn't have to work quite as hard with the feature. Although, interestingly, in the same way as it happened with the shorts, I had watched the film twice, actually, to prepare, to follow the story, to know what was coming, when the battles are, how long the battles are going on, so I can pace myself. I know where
Yeah.
to go and know when the battles end. So, when this boulder falls off and does whatever, I mean, that's not what happens in the film. Okay, that's your cue to start to wrap it up. And I had a couple of preconceived ideas about what this film was, and there's a lot of posturing about who is in charge and fighting, and we're going to take over. No, we're going to get this beforehand. And what wound up happening while I was recording is the musical state I was in was something that was a lot more meditative and spiritual in a way, because ultimately it isn't just about the way, say, Alexander Nevsky is, a lot of fighting in battles to take over territory. There is this, he becomes at the end Saint Wenceslas, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so there is this spiritual journey that this whole thing is about, that isn't just taking over land and killing people so we can take it over. And so that was something that happened again while we were quote unquote rolling. That I thought, oh, this is actually working better than what I thought maybe I was going to do, and I think supports better what this film is actually about, and is not just a series of battles being fought.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it's such an interesting story that it keeps sort of preparing for battle, but like Wenceslas's sort of inner journey is, what can we do that's not this battle? How can we ameliorate this? How do we sort of diffuse this or this? And by the end, like it seems like the forces are kind of marshaled against him. But yeah, I definitely sense that there's that sort of ache in the score that I think really suits the score
Good.
really well.
I'm glad you thought so. Like I said, I haven't seen the finished version, and I
Okay.
recorded it, cleaned it up, punched in things I wanted to fix, and sent it off. But I'm glad it worked for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal. The goal is, it's a weird thing for a film composer to want people to forget about them and their music, but for me, it's more important that we enjoy this film, because people are probably not familiar with Czech silent film at all anyway. So you're going in
Mm-hmm.
already thinking,
Mm-hmm.
well, what is this? Is it going to be good? Am I going to like it? It's Czech. Am I going to understand it? And et cetera, et cetera. And you want to not only put people at ease, but help them get into that trance-like state where is this flow of information that happens between you and the screen, and then also the music. That's what I call the silent film universe. It only exists with silent film. It's
Yeah.
experiential,
Yeah.
and it draws on your right brain, or what we consider the right brain, more than any other form of cinema.
That's great. I think you've answered all my questions. I guess before I go, I just kind of wanted to ask you if you wanted to plug Undercrank Productions a little bit, tell our listeners about what Undercrank's about and what you're working on. I've, as someone who watched a whole lot of screwball comedies this past winter, I am very, very excited about your Silent Everett Edward Horton collection that's coming out. Yeah.
Well, Undercrank Productions started out about 12 years ago, and inadvertently, I didn't mean to become a home video label. But it was basically, it started out with a stack of 16 millimeter prints of comedy shorts that I had, where I had either the only known copy or one of the only known copies outside of an archive that would never really issue the film. And I thought to myself, if nobody can see these, then they're still lost. And right at this time, Amazon's manufacture on demand arm, which has now ceased, called CreateSpace, began. I knew about film editing, video editing, scoring, DVD authoring, et cetera, et cetera. I did a Kickstarter. Kickstarter itself had only been around for a couple of years. Um, I raised enough money to put out what is called accidentally preserved Volume 1. It's a term I came up with for these films that were made. These 16 millimeter rental prints were made in the 1920s and 30s for the home use market. Nobody thought, it's a good thing we're doing this on safety film because the nitrate prints won't survive, and these will be the only copies. That's why these were accidentally preserved. The disc,
happy
yeah,
accident,
and the project went well. It was released. I was very fortunate to get a very nice review from Dave Kerr of the New York Times when he was still there and reviewing home video releases. And it's just sort of gradually snowballed from there. But basically, actually, my second release was something called The Mishaps of Musty Suffer, which is a comedy serial from 1916 and 17, which was my first co-branding arrangement with the Library of Congress. And so most of what we've been releasing over the last 12 years, and we're about to have, I think, our 37th Blu-ray or DVD come out, is the unheralded gems of the silent film era. Movies you've never heard of, but you should. These are the movies that people went to see every week while they were waiting for the next Doug Fairbanks film. They're all the big, they're certainly the tentpole films of Chaplin, Keaton, Lloyd, Mary Pickford, and on and on. And I'm happy for, Kino Lorber and Flicker Alley and Criterion and the San Francisco Film Preserve and on, and Milestone Films to do the big titles. And there's still plenty of silent film that survives that I'll come across something like When Knighthood Was in Flower with Marion Davies or the Horton shorts where like, wow, this should really be available and get it out there. So the Horton shorts that you mentioned, Edward Everett Horton, we know him from movies in the 30s and 40s, but he had been a stage actor, and that character and persona that we know him for was already worked out on the stage. He had been in the theater and in California and entered movies in the early 1920s. In 1927, Harold Lloyd decided to make one film a year instead of two, and his idea, I think, was in order to keep his crew busy, sign Horton to do a series of 2 reel comedy shorts. And 8 of them were made. The nitrate camera negatives and prints survived, and when Harold Lloyd died, they were given to a guy named Richard Simonton, who had been Lloyd's archivist. Simonton got funding through the Library of Congress and the newly minted AFI, American Film Institute, preserved these things to safety, and they've sat in a vault since the 1970s. But they look amazing, and he's hilarious. Wow. And they're made by, if this was there was a movie poster today, it would say from the people who made The Kid, Brother, and Speedy. It's the same crew.
Right.
We're about to release our 7th Marion Davies film. She made so many great comedies and light dramas and light comedies in the 1920s, and they've just been out of the public eye forever for reasons, most film programmers will go with things that are known in order to draw an audience. And so taking a deep dive into the lesser known stars is something that programmers may not go for. It may be something that some of the larger home video companies won't necessarily put their attention to. This is one of the reasons that silent westerns are almost invisible on home video. I don't count the things that are out from oldies.com and Alpha Video where you're happy to see an image. And it's great for people who just want to see it, but we have now done 2 Blu-rays of restorations of films starring Tom Mix and Tom Tyler, and we're talking with another film accompanist I've worked with before about doing another disc of westerns. So we're filling out the landscape by making these films available in quality presentations with digital restoration where possible, good scores, whether it's me or folks like Andrew Earl Simpson or John Marsalis. We're looking at the long tail. It's a matter of this should be available for anybody who is interested. John Ford is super famous, and a lot of his films are well released, but his older brother, Francis, who got him into the business and from whom he learned a great deal, is completely overlooked. So we have a disc of Francis Ford films. There's a 2-disc set of films directed by Frank Borzage made in 1921, which only exist because they were produced by Cosmopolitan Productions, Hearst's company for Marion Davies films, but Cosmopolitan also had Borzage under contract for a year or two. And because of that, Marion held on to her films and willed them to preservation. These exist, and these earlier Borzage films, if you know his films from the 30s, and you know Street Angel and Seventh Heaven, you can see things like Back Pay and I'm blanking on the name of the other one, but you can see early, 6 years earlier, oh, he was already doing this and these Borzage things. So the idea is to find something that deserves to be available, to present it in a quality package with quality artwork. So, just looking at a 1.5-inch high image on Amazon or Deep Discount, oh, this is going to be a quality release. And then working with fans. We pretty much, a majority of our projects are funded by fans through Kickstarter. I like to say that as opposed to saying funded by Kickstarter. Kickstarter didn't do the work. This is us reaching out to fans. And some people have referred to this as pre-ordering, which it is not. A pre-order is you are buying ahead of time something that's already finished. With these projects, that when you pledge your $25, when you do finally get your disc, you made this happen. You see your name in a crawl at the end, but you can feel a little ownership that, hey, I helped make this happen. So this is what we're doing, and we've been just so thrilled with the level of support by fans, critics, bloggers, what have you, as well as archives. After doing so many projects with the Library of Congress, we are now working with archives like the UCLA Film and Television Archive, where we restored Roland West's The Bat, which they had saved and preserved from nitrate 35 years ago. Films from the Film Museum. Occasionally we'll get a short or two from the Museum of Modern Art, and other archives. But by making these quality projects and bringing light to some of these obscure films that deserve to be better known, I think both fans and folks in the community see that what we're doing is that it is possible to find an audience for films that are not safety last.
Yeah. I was going to say we had just such an incredible response to our first pair of silent films, the Henrik Galeen, El Rowney, and the Student of Prague, and I'm hoping we're going to have a lot of enthusiasm around Arrival from the Darkness and St. Wenceslas, and just saying to the audience, a lot of Deaf Crocodile's, fan base believes the same way. Like, it's not about, like you said, chucking out a million, burn on demand, releases. It's, taking the thing that you care about and polishing it into a diamond. So I would say, Deaf Crocodile fans, if you like the silent films that we're doing and Ben's work on them, absolutely check out Undercrank Productions. And where can they do that? Is it just undercrankproductions.com?
Yeah, you can go to undercrankproductions.com. During June, I don't know when this is going to air, all of our titles are on about 50% off at Deep Discount, Critics' Choice, and Movies Unlimited. And June is our anniversary month, so that we've got a big sale there, and there are dedicated pages to the Undercrank line on those three vendors, but you can always go to undercrankproductions.com. And I think that what Deaf Crocodile is doing is it's the same sort of thing. There is a need and an interest in these niche titles. Collectors who have something want to see more of what else is out there. And I think that what Deaf Crocodile is doing for all the things that it puts out, and including this release, clearly nobody else has thought to release Czech silent films. What a great idea.
Right.
This is the whole thing that, somebody asked me recently, why do you think physical media is so important? And I said, because all the cool stuff is on physical media, and everybody gets it. Streaming is so narrow, and even the boutique streaming channels still cycle things out every once in a while. And so
Oh, yeah.
making these films available for the audience who wants to see them is so important. And I think it's, whether it's things that Undercrank is putting out or Deaf Crocodile, we're on a mission, and I think it's very important, and it's a valuable and a valiant effort.
Perfect way to end. Ben Modell, thank you so much for your time. This has been an absolute
Thank
blast.
you very much. Thanks for having me on. My website is silentfilmmusic.com, and on various social media, I am at Silent Film Music.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description